All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to some more Mania 7 Key World Cup 2026 action. We've got another round of 16 matchup here for your enjoyment, and this one has a lot of stakes connected to it. It'll be our number 32 seeded Denmark versus our number 16 seeded France in the losers bracket. The loser of this match will be eliminated from the Mania 7 Key World Cup. The winner moving on to quarterfinals in the losers bracket. But without further ado, I am Toph Daddy, joined here in the commentary booth by Epic Man 2. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction there, as per usual. So yeah, once again, we are back in business, resuming our onslaught of matches. Gonna be one of our final Saturday ones as well, with Denmark seed 32 up against France seed 16. Both these teams have made it out of the round of 32 relatively clean, without really much to bleed, except from France losing to a tiebreaker against Canada last week, and now Canada's facing against South Korea in the winners bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough situation. I think 16-17 seed seems to be that way. It's the one that is most likely to see upsets in, and France just on the wrong side of that upset. But here, getting to face Denmark in the losers bracket, getting another chance to show their mettle. And we have the rolls coming out, and unfortunately, Denmark rolling a 4 there. So France is going to take the victory on the rolls at least and get a chance of whether they want to ban first or pick first.
Mate, this is like the second time that I've seen such a low roll happening, with the previous time literally just being between Thailand and friggin' Hong Kong. Yeah, Hong Kong. Like, bro, one of the teams rolled a 1 going into the second ban wave. That was like one of the most insane things that I saw, honestly.
One roll.
The fact that it's happening again is happening.
One rolls are hype. I don't know. I love seeing one rolls. They're great. I'm reminded a little bit of a grand finals match I was a part of where my opponent rolled a 1, and that's just the best time to do it.
Absolute comedy gold in general. It's not a tournament match without the possibility that you could just simply roll a 1 in a match and then just have the whole crowd going wild over it, you know?
Yeah. But with that being said, that is going to push us into the ban phase, or the protect phase first, and then the ban phase. It'll be interesting to see how these teams want to approach it. Looking at their scores from previous rounds and just generally like the qualifiers, it looks like Denmark has maybe a little bit of a comfort area in like the hybrid area. Though going up against a team as strong as France, there's going to be some tough decisions to be made on Denmark's side. And then France, pretty much an all-rounder team, so it's hard to make a decision whether you want, like, where you want to go. I think this is going to be a big matchup where comfort's going to take the wheel with these protects and bans.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for Denmark, generally, they're going to struggle quite a bit going into a variety of these maps in general, considering that this is a relatively fair step up from what we have seen in the round of 32 weekend, as we do see a protect coming out for LN2 first. So it makes most sense that France would want to prioritize perhaps some of the more controversial picks, dare I say, that we have in the map pool, while we do have...
That's a word to use, I suppose.
Yeah, like, controversial in the sense that it's like one of the picks that I feel a lot of teams would usually want to avoid. However, like, especially going into this round or something, I've seen a lot more teams picking into LN2 than usual. LN1 is a different matter in that scenario.
Yeah, we actually did see that it's not an LN2 protect, it's an EX2 protect. So still on the long note side of things, but not quite protecting that awkward coordination style map in the LN2, so that does give Denmark the opportunity to ban it if they still want to.
Yeah, thankfully for that. Yeah, it makes sense that France would want to go for a World Execute Me instead. That one definitely is a lot more comfortable than LN2 is. So Rise 2 does get the protect from Denmark, however, does look to be one of their more comfortable picks, especially since I would imagine that their main option would definitely to at least sharpshoot within the Rice category, as this is actually a protect that's dedicated to Joel, it looks like.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I think for Denmark, Frida and Nepo are going to be the primary 2 players for the most of the maps in this pool. but making sure that you can actually keep a map in play that an accuracy, like a very strong accuracy player like Joel and Stoom can go into, keeping that open so you have the option to swap your players out and make sure that you're not tiring the two who are going to be playing the most maps. I think that's a fair idea in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Fatigue is definitely going to be one of the biggest things to look out for either team, especially for Denmark, considering that I assume France is going to bring out all the guns going to a variety of these maps on the map pool. Perhaps probably going to look into some of the harder picks to make it all the more difficult for Denmark to potentially try and fight back, as we see a ban on LN2 as well.
Yeah, and we saw the potential protect coming out from France on that LN2, but with them swapping out, Denmark is going to take the opportunity to ban that map out. And France, after seeing the Rice 2 ban, or Rice 2 protect, you could definitely see them wanting to go with something like a Rice 3 or Rice 4 ban. I could absolutely see them going in that direction. But they are going to go for Rice 1, so the speedier pick going to be taken off the table, and the more accuracy-focused core stream and Jack chart going to be staying on the table for Denmark as possible pick strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. Very strong picks from both teams all around. Looks like France does not want Denmark to inherently reach for their victory, considering that this is basically a life or death situation for both of these teams. Well, not in the real world, but obviously just within this World Cup for transparency's sake. So yeah, looks like this is going to be a relatively straightforward match, as we do have France in line first to make their first move on the board. So I would not be particularly surprised if they went for perhaps something like LN1 instead, seeing that was actually open for once.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expect in this situation as well. You see the LN2 ban from Denmark. LN1 is the next closest thing, and you've already shown that you want to keep those long picks open with the Protect on EX2. I imagine France is going to feel very comfortable with an LN1 opening pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with most matches that we've seen in general throughout this one, a lot of teams have really utilized LN1 and LN2, kind of alternating between them, just because they're really similar in structure overall. So definitely would make sense if LN1 was to be picked out at one point from the side of France, as it does look like we will get the first pick soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, we should be getting it. And actually, Hybrid 1 going to be the choice. Tether is coming out. So a little bit of a curveball there, seeing the LN ban and Protect on the side of Denmark and France in this case. But this one, I think that makes sense, ultimately. There's a little bit of that coordination LN requirement. And I think France is actually quite comfortable holding on to these kinds of hybrid-y mixed picks, especially against a team like Denmark, where they might not feel as comfortable when trying to mix the whole LN and Rice skill sets for their two main players, Fred and Meepo, who we see in already.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it definitely makes the most sense for France to throw out a pick like this, considering that they probably would have looked at the statistics from last week where Denmark did play the likes of Midnight Driving. However, they did have the tendency to struggle on that map alone, and it was with Frite and Meepo sporting out of the Danish as well. So it looks like France is going to be sharpshooting for a lot of picks that may discover the Danish, because I would imagine Denmark's main opportunities to fight would be within Rice, not inherently as much with, the LNs and perhaps most hybrids in that scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll have to see what happens. We see Clamati, and I imagine Milla is going to be taking that second slot. I could see Koro Sage taking this as well, but if previous matches say anything, it's probably going to be Milla that we're just waiting on to go into the right slot there.
Yeah, it's just really about the consistency, considering that France is pretty much a team that has the right resources to just go into any hard or non-Rice pick, really, and just try and shoot for that thing. And as you say, Koro Sage does come in for the map, or for this map. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, I think. I said it was possible, more likely Milla, but in this case, I think Tether's focus is a little bit on the slower paced kind of LN and mixed Rice patterns in the middle of it. And I think that's something that Koro Sage particularly shines at when it comes to these kinds of things.
Yeah, this is a relatively comfortable map as well for a good majority of teams in general. So I feel like this is one of those maps that just makes sense to be a pick that pretty much most teams will just pick into first thing. We see a really early drop from Meepo, however, but that's going to be relatively inconsequential for the time being before we actually get to see some souls that the map has to offer. Oh.
Yeah, Frida actually. And wow, Denmark not coming through this opening very well at the moment. Both players dropping to the 98s and finding misses. Two full combos on the side of France, some accuracy drops, and Coruscant actually trading one of those misses now, also in the 98% range, but Clamati at 99.5% with the full combo is doing more than enough legwork to keep France with a heavy lead right now, already reaching 30,000 points.
Yeah, a really good lead from France for the time being. Clamati the only full combo inside of the lobby so far without really giving a chance to anyone else to really fight for that score. Frida is the one on Denmark that's trying to fight for the score lines to at least remain the same. However, it's already only like, what, 3 misses to about 10, 15 of them so far from France? Like, it's just kind of difficult at this point, as scoreline's about 40,000 points of an advantage to the French.
Yeah, we're basically seeing pretty consistent misses on the side of Denmark. Meepo is able to get up to the 400, but right as they make it, they do find a miss. It's traded by Coruscant, but the more misses that Denmark sees, the easier it's going to be for France to continue running away with this, especially with Clamati still holding on to the full combo on this.
Yeah, Clamati is doing some absolute heroics going into a map like this, especially going into the final quarter where this is basically where the map kind of just becomes to start taxing on your nerves in general. And we can definitely see that this has already happened with the Danish, like literally 5 minutes ago. Not even 5 minutes ago, this song's like only 2 minutes and 20 seconds. My calculations may be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, a map like this can feel pretty long, especially with how difficult some of the long note patterns do come out. But this ending gets even denser with the long notes. Denmark starting to struggle even more, while France starting to pick it up even more. Coruscant is going to find one drop there at the end, but it's not going to matter with Denmark continuing to drop. And Clamati going to pull off a full combo to start off the match and put France on the board 1-0.
Really good stuff from Clamati to really kickstart the match off. Please, nobody comment on the perfect count that Clamati got. That is some devilish accuracy right there.
You already did. You pointed it out. Now everyone's going to be looking at it.
Oh, dear. Okay. Oh, my bad.
But one way or another, a really great score from Clamati on that hybrid pick, and a good start for France here in this match. Denmark going to get an opportunity to strike back, and they have quite a few picks to go through. They've got a full rice pool outside of rice 1 to get through as potential selections. I imagine they would want to avoid the hybrids for now, and they are going to start with the Court Jack pick, which I think is expected. This has the lowest score variance of any map in the pool, and it always will, and it always will forever. And it's the kind of pick that Denmark can really take advantage of some struggles if France is not able to put 2 full combos on the board.
Yeah, it's really just one of those maps where the score variation is just practically objective, like you just alluded to with what you were saying there, Toph. So yeah. Definitely makes sense that this one gets picked out really early, albeit I do feel like this is a bit of a risky pick for Denmark, just because, yes, Joel and Stoom at least should be assumed to be consistent within a map like this. However, there is a really significant difference between the skill ceiling that France has as well, with Milla and Jerem, the monkeys of the French community, coming in for this pick alone to try and support that of the French men, going against the Danish as well. So it does look like Stoom does pop out, but they come back in as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right. It is a quite risky pick for Denmark to come out of the gate with, especially if France is comfortable on this. But when you are the seed 32 against a seed 16, and that you have that very large seed gap and potential skill gap for a lot of situations, you kind of need to be able to take risks and feel comfortable doing that. And I think Joel's a veteran in this game, so is Stu. They both have the capabilities of looking those kinds of risks in the face and performing well. So I don't think this is... I think this is kind of what you would expect from Denmark as a pick strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Seyo is one of those maps where it's pretty much just a step up from Vice of the previous round, where you just need to ensure that you know how to control and coordinate between each of the anchors that are kind of spread across all 7 keys on the board. And it's also a significant increase in BPM as well by, well, only about 5 BPM or so, with last round being 107. This is 112 for the record, whereas it's still just a relatively short map as well for any of the raw skill maps in the map pool. Only about 9 seconds shy of the 2-minute marker, so gonna be really interesting to see how both these teams kind of go about it, and that's already a miss from Stu right there.
Yeah, and that kind of highlights some of the difficulty of this map. We do see Jerem trading one of them out. Actually, no full combos on the board left. This map already proving to be a struggle for everyone on board. This opening section, extremely difficult with the anchors, the long jack anchors in particular, and we have seen it already catch out pretty much everyone in the lobby here. France taking the better side of that with Joel and Stu, not really able to keep up and stay consistent with this section. Already halfway through, and France taking a 60,000 point lead.
Yeah, that was an absolute bombshell that was dropped in all the players, just causing them to miss all around. However, the only ones that seem or appear to remain with such damage is none other than Joel and Stu, just continually missing even before they even reach the combo cap, where on the upper side with France, nobody is like missing again. Milla just missed right there, but Jerem still has the combo intact, thankfully. But it's really just gonna have to come down to so many clean misses to be able to make one dirty for the side of Denmark to at least try and feast off them, perhaps.
Yeah, but unfortunately it is not looking very good for Denmark at the moment as Joel and Stu continue to break combo, struggling to even get up to a 400 combo mark. Milla is going to trade one of those back, but with 150,000 points of difference at this ending section, France is going to take an early breakpoint with a really great performance from Jerem after that opening mess.
Yeah, that's some really dominant performance there from France in general, and oh my goodness, 57 perfects as well from Jerem. That's like the highest ratio in the entire lobby and overall score MVP. If not for that one miss that just happened to occur in the map, just imagine what the score could have been from Jerem. That would have been insane.
Yeah, that would have been a bit of a ridiculous score, but it's still very, very good one way or the other.
Yeah.
And France, with that breakpoint, is going to get an opportunity to establish a 3-0 lead if they can pick well here. And they had a very strong win on that hybrid 1 pick earlier. They have their protective EX2 if they want to bust that out now and really push the advantage they have on the long notes. But they have quite a few available options. If they could pretty much go with anything here. I would avoid Rice because I think Denmark is definitely most comfortable on the Rice pool. But as far as the Ellens and hybrids, they could pretty much go with anything.
Yeah, right as you say, that Hybrid 2 does get the pick next. Basically still remaining sensible within their picks. I definitely would imagine that France just wants Denmark to pick into anything Rice because they feel just as confident as they are on such a category that they don't necessarily need to pick into anything Rice related unless somehow Denmark is actually a lot better than they would have initially anticipated going into this match. So Reizoko Mitara putting Ganai, this is going to be the more boss hybrid, dare I say. This is a bit of a more iconic song within the OC community in general, or at least like from what, 12 years ago or something. I was not even around during that time.
It's one of the OGs. I won't say that I enjoyed it when it was a big popular thing, but it's definitely a well-known song, and it's still getting its love, you know, 12 years after OC started really getting big.
Yeah.
The longevity is just there, I guess.
As it should.
But we do the swap outs from both sides. We see Millimonkey actually staying in for France, which makes sense. They're quite a good hybrid player, and Koro Sage can be in, so Clamati actually not going to be coming in for a hybrid pick in this situation, it looks like, which is maybe a bit of a surprise, but France just has that ability. They have a lot of flexibility within their team, and I think that's one of the big strengths of it. Denmark bring out Meepo and Frida again. They've shown the ability to swap out, but when it comes to these specific picks, you're going to be talking about Meepo and Frida a lot for like the hybrids and long notes. And I don't, because Joel and Stoom, I don't think we're going to be seeing coming in for those. So I think this just shows a bit of an advantage that France might have when it just comes to the options they have to put in for all of these maps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think generally when it comes to France in general, and maybe a few other teams as well in that scenario, there's just a lot of teams where there's very few categories that you can really afford to play on, and especially with the players that France has, they pretty much have enough players to just switch out for more unpredictable rosters to go into these non-Rice categories as well, whereas that basically opens up for more unpredictability as well within their team. So that's actually a helping hand in their favor, whereas Denmark, there isn't really much they can do, and overall, when it comes to these maps in general, the lineup just becomes a little more predictable, dare I say, when it comes to, you know, how a lot of these players just aren't really like as flexible as, you know, Milla and Corsage maybe, for example.
Yeah, I definitely think that might be the case. We actually we weren't able to see it because of the issues that we had there, but Corsage, it does not have a full combo. They do have a miss, but Meepo found one after the 400 combo and yet another miss as well, on top of the accuracy advantage that France has at the moment as a result, and it was looking like it could have been pretty close, and now Milla with a break, but it's going to be traded by Meepo, and France looking to run away with this halfway through again, though Corosage with a miss as well, that leads me to shrink just a little bit, especially with Frida still holding on to a big combo, and that lead is already down to 15,000. Denmark looking very strong on this potentially, but they will still need a few mistakes or accuracy drops from France if they want to start taking this lead from them. Corosage back up to 400 combo, and the 18,000 point lead now established. They still have a couple misses worth of room, but Denmark also starting to get there, but Meepo gonna find the break, and France might just be able to run away with it from that miss.
Yeah, absolutely. France is looking just as solid on a pick like this in ages, being able to ensure that even while Corsage is kind of blundering on a lot of these patterns, not looking to be entirely confident when it comes to a variety of the alternations you have between the Rice and Ellen spectrums, it's still good enough to a point where it's just down to raw team consistency. We see an FC from Fritte as well, so
yeah,
if it was... Yeah.
That could have been a lot closer. Frida with an absolutely incredible score, topping the lobby there with that FC, but not quite enough to overpower the accuracy that France has.
Yeah. I think in general, one of the main things that Denmark kind of struggles with, as I think I would have alluded to the last time we commentated for Denmark last week against America, is that they seem to struggle a lot with team consistency overall, and this is like very prevalent with a pick like this where, on paper, Fritte is basically competing with both players on France. It's just, we need another Fritte to at least balance out the likes of Denmark, to at least showcase that there is power and that Denmark can be a force to be reckoned with on picks such as this. It's just that we need at least some more balance on the score line to be able to try and have it be a little more fair, for example, because it's really just the instabilities of certain players that kind of make it a little more difficult for the side of Denmark here.
Yeah, that being said, though, even with that MC, that was the closest map that we've had so far in this match. And that was on France's pick, so Denmark definitely not looking to go down quietly in this matchup, despite what looks like a massive wall in front of them. They're only down one break point, and if they're able to get a point on the board with their pick here, they actually go with Hybrid 3 after seeing the ability to keep up with France on Hybrid 2, which I guess I'm not too surprised about here. It's a bit of a risk, but I mentioned earlier, Denmark kind of has to take those risks in order to have success in this match.
Yeah, I feel like generally, if you have at least seen how Hybrid 2 went, then this is definitely a risk that is worth taking. The only issue is that this one's a lot more difficult on paper, just because this one is a lot more jazz-oriented. Sapphire and Fire is definitely one of those maps that really opens for a lot more volatility due to its technical nature in general. So I definitely feel like most teams in general, especially on the lower seeds, would really struggle with a map like this, for example. So maybe Frite does have what it takes to at least compete on a map like this against Milla and Corsage as well. But we really need to kind of see something from Meepo to show signs of life on the side of Denmark before the second wave of bans, really.
Yeah, I guess the other side of that too is that the technical difficulty of this hybrid in particular, I think might be what Denmark's looking for in that scenario where combo can be difficult to be consistent on. Obviously that is true for Denmark too, but if they're able to see more breaks from France, that gives Frida the opportunity potentially to carry the map a little bit better than they would have on something like Hybrid 2, where it's easier for France to hold on to combo. And especially if Meepo is able to hold on well enough, that could bode extremely well for Denmark in this scenario. And we see coming out of this intro, Meepo is going to find the first break, but overall accuracy actually in favor of Denmark for the time being.
Absolutely. I think generally right there, that was a really good analogy that you had over there, Toph. Like, just generally when you pick into maps such as these, you want to ensure that you are at least comfortable within picks like these, because you can really utilize discomforting picks to really try and bring out the worst in the opposite team, regardless of seeding, where we've already seen this in a plethora of tournaments in the past few years, for example, albeit Denmark does find more struggles with this one as well, not going entirely to plan, as France is still doing what they can to ensure that the scoreline is in their favor. Milla in the forefront of the focuses with the highest accuracy in the lobby thus far.
Yeah, the highest accuracy in the lobby and the only full combo remaining in the lobby as well. Pulling a Frida from the previous match, or previous map, and getting France that advantage that they need. Meepo a little bit behind the rest of the lobby. Frida, despite the misses, keeping up with the scores of France right now, but that still is about 40,000 points, and Denmark's going to need to get more stable here with the combo. Meepo having a little bit of struggles throughout this map, and unlike the previous one, France not giving up an inch. Despite the early struggles from Corsage, they have recovered very well alongside Frida and hold a massive combo. Right now, the main difference, and I was going to say, is just the misses that we see from Denmark, and that was a double miss from Denmark. Now, maybe being the nail in the coffin for this pick in particular, as 65,000 points of difference is extremely difficult to come back from, especially this close to the end.
Yeah, practically nigh unrecoverable at this point, considering that even if France lets go of the keyboard right now, it's literally not going to change anything at this point. Final middle finger pattern rains down from the board, and that is about 65,000 points in the favor of France. So while we do go into the second ban wave now, there's not really much that Denmark can do. So at this point, this was a bit of a failed experiment that we saw from the science fair. So I think in general, France is pretty much in a good position to pick whatever they want. Frite gets a really good role. Probably going to be really hard to beat if it does come down to the French taking their role. And as I say it, 39 points against 93.
Yeah, so Denmark's going to get their choice of what they want, I believe, to ban first. Doesn't really matter the order in that situation, just kind of arbitrary, but I imagine they're going to ban LN1 here. I don't really know what else they would go for, because I think they'd be more comfortable on something like LN2, and EX2 is already, or LN3, and EX2 is already protected. So LN1 feels like the obvious. And then France, I imagine they're gonna probably ban Rice 3. Those I think would be my locks for the bans in this phase.
Yeah, I feel like, considering that France is most likely gonna pick out EX2, I feel like for Denmark, it could be between either EX2 or anything else.
Hybrid that was already played. You can't ban it.
Yeah.
You can't ban a pick you've already played.
True. Maybe they're trying to resurrect Hybrid 2 from the dead.
Yeah, they're trying to redo it so that they can play it again.
Yeah, if only, mate. Oh, dearie me.
They've got 2 Longo picks available, Ben. They could also ban EX3 if they wanted to get rid of the other hybrid in the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, EX3 definitely would make most sense as a ban as well, if not for LN1, because let's say in the hypothetical scenario that Denmark was to actually win off of EX2, regardless how likely that may be.
Whoa!
It does look like LN3 is the ban instead.
That surprises me. I figured that would have been the most comfortable Longo pick for Denmark available, but I guess they just don't want any part of it.
Interesting. Okay, France, rice free. Oh, it's rice 5.
Rice
okay.
5. Okay, that makes sense too. I don't think it's one way or the other. They're just trying to get rid of the rice pool. Maybe they just feel more comfortable on rice 3 than they do on rice 5, which makes sense. Rice 5 is extremely difficult to get good accuracy on because of the polyrhythmic nature of a lot of the patterns and flams and just tech requirement in it. So it makes sense that they'd want to get rid of it.
And as soon as we're done with that, EX2 pretty much goes without saying. Of course that gets picked. There's just no other. Yeah.
It's their protect. They protected it for a reason, and this is potentially the pick that would get them into the quarterfinals in the losers bracket. So it makes sense that they want to go with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, there isn't really any other option to just say no to EX2. So definitely a good sport from France to be able to throw that out as well, looking to try and see whether they can make it as difficult as possible for Denmark to be able to take a point here, because so far Denmark has been showing their prowess in a variety of maps. Even if it didn't come down to the Rise, they at least looked a little solid on Hybrid 2, for example. So I feel like, if anything, this is going to be a really uphill battle for Denmark to fight. So if anything, they're going to have to be really willing to fight against the Frenchmen here, considering that they're already at match point, only 1 point away from knocking Denmark out of this FP World Cup tournament.
An interesting swap, and Jerem actually coming in for the EX2 here. Probably the last player I would have expected to come in for a long note pick, but this one, I mean, it being in the extreme pool, the hardest long note pick in the pool by far, maybe makes sense for someone like Jerem, who has that physical capability and general late game prowess to want to be swapped in for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jerem in general probably feels a lot more comfortable within World Execute Me as a map in principle, because the map is really flowy in general. Absolutely, this map is definitely the hardest we've seen of any of the other LNs, considering that this is a lot more technical in nature, whereas everything else is a lot more control, release, and just general, just control heavy. It really taxes on your nerves. This one taxes on your nerves in a way that basically makes the map a lot more kind of taxing to go through, in the way that it's a lot more technical and contrarian to all the other LN maps we have.
Yep, but that is going to be the team there. Jerem and Koro Sage staying in for this EX2. Meepo and Frida, as expected, staying in for Denmark as well. The last stand potentially for Denmark on France's pick. Last opportunity to start making their way back into it is going to be World.Execute Me. But France, this is their protect. They have to be very comfortable with it. Like you said, this is going to be an uphill climb. And through this intro, everyone's able to get to 400 combo through the easier patterns, but the coordination starts to hit. And Frida is actually going to be the first one to drop. Korosage is going to trade it, but Meepo as well. And now we're left with 1 full combo on the board already, and that's just Jerem left with the full combo. Koro and Meepo going to continue to trade back, but with the full combo from Jerem, that's going to give France a small lead out of the gate.
Yeah, all but leaves is 1, and that is going to be the title of Jerem Monkey for this map in particular. Everyone basically missed, and now it's already only about 8,000 points and just about staying around that margin, which is honestly arguably surprising for me, because of the fact that we've seen Denmark struggle a lot, and the miss comes out from Jerem as well. That's basically just about 1 combo gone from France, while Korosage is the one of just approaching 1,000 of a combo right now for the time being. So if it does come down to a war misses from France, then to be honest, Denmark can probably take it, but they need to stop missing as well, because we literally see the vulnerability coming through their fingers.
Yeah, that double miss from Denmark in the chorus there was devastating. Chorus Age is going to start trading it back and trading another miss there. But the big difference right now is Jerem's accuracy. Despite having that miss, was pretty clean. And they are still able to hold on to a 99.59% accuracy, well above everyone else in the lobby. Keeping France in the lead, though, this lead is not as big as it potentially could be. This is reminding me of Hybrid 2, where a couple more misses could definitely help Denmark. Though we're seeing a double miss from Denmark, trading just the one from Jerem, and now Chorus Age is going to be the one to establish that lead and start growing it for the side of France, with Meepo and Frida just not doing well with this higher density section.
Yeah, at this point, it's just really hard for Denmark to be able to fight for some kind of sign of life going into EX2, considering the fact that there's already enough double misses to ensure and basically guarantee there's no hope in at least trying to save their grace going into a map like this, where you still have combos at least being a lot more sustainable on the side of France, even with Jerem just like giving out. There's like
France is having a really rough time in this section, and Denmark is actually holding the combo. This lead is almost in 4 digits now.
Wait, this could actually be a lot closer. What the heck?
This is extremely close. We still have a chorus left to go, and if Denmark's able to hold on and keep their accuracy strong, it's possible. But Meepo and Frida are going to find a double miss. And in the Denser section, Chorus Age is going to trade one, but that got extremely close until the Den section came around. And Jerem now starting to pull that lead away for France.
It's the final stretch of the map. Jerem has basically done their job. They saw the job briefing, and they just did everything they had to do to ensure that this was the point for France, that there is no chance of opportunity for Denmark to take it. Even while it got a little rocky in the middle, it's going to be ultimately France's point to make in the round of 16, and therefore move into that quarterfinals losers bracket. So congratulations to both teams, and Denmark put a really fair fight as well against them, but unfortunately not enough for this iteration, while France advances into the quarterfinals, knocking out Denmark of the tournament. And they're going to be facing Poland next in the quarterfinals for the initial match, which is honestly going to be concerning. Like, what are these two teams doing there?
That's rough. Poland, France, and losers bracket and quarterfinals already. Losing one of those teams so early is going to be tough. Of course, Denmark, like you said, being eliminated as well, and it's sad to see them go. But like as we've been saying, they put up a really good performance. That EX2 was really close up to a certain point. It was just that ending that really allowed France to pull away. But great performance from both teams. Congratulations to France for moving on to the quarterfinals and making top 24. But we will see them next weekend to face Poland. And with that, we're nearly done with our Saturday block of matches. We have a nice little break here before our final Saturday matchup, which is going to be Ireland versus the United States in the winners bracket. And that's going to be an exciting one. One of our upset victors from last week in Ireland, making it into round of 16 winners finals and looking to pull off another upset against one of the higher seeds in this tournament, the United States. That's going to be in 4 hours at 21 UTC, and I'm really excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Ireland is definitely one of those teams that has been showing some absolute potential going into this tournament, especially with that upset against Australia last week. So if it does come down that they are actually proving their worth against the United States as well, the world is basically going to end. This is Megaton Punch all over again, bro. Yeah.
Anything can happen. They've got some great players, and I'm excited to see how they do, but they've got a tough opponent, another tough opponent to get through there. But it's certainly possible if they were able to get through it last week. But without further ado, we are going to take just about a, what looks like a 3.5 hour break. No, a 4.5 hour break. No, yeah, 4.5 hours before we come back for the last match of our Saturday block, Ireland versus the USA. And then that'll be it for today. And all we'll have left is our Sunday block of matches. So don't go anywhere, or make sure to come back at 21 UTC for an exciting winners bracket showdown between Ireland and the United States. We'll see you guys then.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This has been Epic Man 2 and Toph Daddy. We'll be ready to see you shill in just a bit. Bye-bye.